Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com. Today I wanted to share with you how to make this really simple karate card. I made this for my niece because she will be getting her brown belt this evening. So this card, I kind of searched around on Google for a good punch art card, and this one I found was fairly simple and also very easy. So I did use copper. I know this isn't really necessarily brown ribbon, but I used the copper ribbon to kind of replicate the brown. You could certainly use 2 pieces of it if you wanted a little bit wider, but this was pretty simple. And then one other thing I wanted to show you is that I kind of modified the sentiments that I used here. So these are from Strong and Beautiful, the Stampin' stamp set. It's available from Stampin' Up. And I love the sentiments here, but a couple of them, sometimes I don't want to say I because I'm sending it from the whole family. So what I did was I just blocked this out with a Post-it. And then I kind of went back and colored in this one part. This one was much easier because it's on the end. But I'm going to show you how I did that. And for this card, it's very, very easy. I just grabbed some actually scrap pieces of paper. So I do have a full piece of Thick Whisper white cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 11, score at 5 1/2. So I'm going to just fold that and just reinforce it with my bone folder. And I actually am going to make this one, when I do this one, I'm going to make it in a different color belt because eventually she will be a black belt, or if maybe there's someone else I know I could send it to. And then I have 2 scrap pieces of Whisper White. Now I did these pieces just because they were kind of simple to be able to use, and this one has a smudge on it. It was simple to be able to use to make this kind of fit the shape that I was going for. So this one, if I'm not mistaken, let me make sure I'm correct. It measures 1 1/4 by 3 inches. So you can make it a little longer, a little shorter, just depending. And then I have a second piece that I believe is 1 and this is about 1 6/8 by 2 inches. And this one, what I'm going to do is I actually cut this in half to make the sleeves. And then I have one other piece, and I want to show you. I did this ahead of time, but I'm going to show you what to do with it. What I did was I keep all these pieces that I use when I trim up my cardstock. So if I'm trimming cardstock down to use for a front, so I would trim it down to 4 by 5 1/4. You'll have all these little pieces left over. Well, what I did was I just used my Simply Scored to put some score lines in it, and then it's really easy to use. So let me grab one more piece, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So I have lots and lots of these little thin strips. So some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. You could certainly use a thicker scrap if you wanted to make it a little bit more durable. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 2 of the kind of longer ones. That way, if we need to, we can trim it up a little bit. So I'm going to put these smaller ones away. And then I also grabbed a piece of basic black to kind of frame it to, but you could also use red. You could also use the belt color if you wanted to. So what I'm going to do for this other one, just to do it a little bit different, is I'm going to grab a piece of real red. And actually what I did for this piece, to be honest, is I just picked a scrap piece that I had laying around. I don't think I have any larger scrap pieces of red, so I'm actually going to grab one. Whoops, drop that on my foot. I'm going to grab one and trim it up, and then we will use that piece just to kind of give a little bit different of a feel. So the background piece for this, if I'm not mistaken, is about 4 1/4, I think, by 4. Let me just see. So that's 4 by, oh, I was close. About 4 1/2. So 4 by 4 1/2. I tell you one thing, my measuring skills and eyeballing things are greatly improving over what they were in the past. So I'm going to go ahead with 4 1/4. I'll just cut this in half in case I needed to use it for something else. By about 4 1/2. And I'm going to trim this off just a little bit. So bring this down to 4. So that's about right. So I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to grab my Simply Scored, and we'll go ahead and score this white so I can show you what to do. And then all we have to do is assemble this. So what I did was, move this out of the way. I just kind of slid this up, and getting it started is probably the biggest hassle, but honestly, it's not that bad. And I just scored at whatever score line was there. So whatever this fit into, I stuck it in the corner, kind of started it and went down. I did press fairly hard That way the indentions, depending on which way you want to lay it, if you want it to be face down so it's indented or debossed, or if you wanted to flip it over so you could see it sticking up or be embossed, you could do either one. So I'm going to do both of these. That way when I lay it down, in case I don't like the way it looks, I can trim it up easily. And I don't need this one to go all the way down, but... And then the third one, so it's about every eighth of an inch, because the Simply Scored does not have 16ths, it only has eighths. So you can see there, it does have a nice ribbed feel to it, which is kind of how their uniforms are. I can't remember even what you call it. I should know this. We've been to so many of these, but I can't remember. So I have these two. Put this back over here. I have my base piece. Oops, I got one more thing I have to trim up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece. This was the sleeve piece. And essentially what I did was I lined up the points in the diagonal into the cutting tray of my trimmer, which I'm super excited because hopefully my new trimmer will be coming soon. And there, so I just kind of cut it down the middle. Oops, I must have missed that just a smidge. I'm going to do this with my scissors so I don't shred it, even though it will be covered up. I'm just going to cut this right down the center. Oh, come on, Rachel. There we go. And then you just flip it. So you have kind of both pieces of the sleeves. There you go, just like that. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so really all we have to do at this point is assemble it and then do our stamping. So I did this kind of as like an eyeball on, oh, and one other thing I forgot. I did get a little corner or a circle punch. This is a 1 1/4. You could do it smaller if you wanted to, like just a small one. And if it's just a little bit off, I kind of went in and just evened it up a little bit. So for the neck piece, just that way it looks like you have a neck to it. So what I did was I went in like this and I put these kind of down where I thought I wanted them to be because they didn't need to stick out hugely. I kind of put them on there evenly like that. Oops, and I realized this is a side with a smudge, so I need to either make sure that I flip that over or that part gets covered with the ribbon. So again, just kind of eyeballing it where I wanted it, like that. And then I picked up, I'm holding this down with my finger, and then I kind of put a little bit of a triangle of glue in here, slid this underneath, and just make sure I had it lined up where I wanted it. So like that. And then same for this one. And then just to give it a little bit more depth, what I did was I ended up popping up the body of the, I feel like I want to say ghee, but I don't know if that's wrong or not. My niece was here, she would tell me. So that's going to be pretty good. And I'm actually going to bring this over and just round this just a little bit more so it's kind of even. Yeah, then I kind of messed that circle up, but. So you could always do this with just a slightly smaller circle punch, and you only really want a half circle in there. So there's that part. Now what I did is I actually added the little ribbed part, which would go over. I added this with the foam strips, that way it would uniformly stick up. And I kind of did this one as well. So I started in the corner, and you're really basically just making a Y for this. So there's one, and then this one, I think what I did was I actually did the long one first. That way it would be long enough the other direction. So we're gonna lift this up just a little bit and put that across. And then this part I'm gonna just nip this little bit off. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm taking the end of my foam strip and just nipping that off. So it doesn't really take a lot. So you kind of have your Y there. All right. You do want to make sure that you really press this down so it sticks. All right. And then if you don't want this to stick up, you certainly could omit this. You could just glue it down directly. So I'm going to just lay this piece down. And I know it does overlap up here a little bit, but I kind of want it to overlap so I can go ahead and trim the rest of this off. So I'm going to trim this piece right here because it's not going to go farther than that. You can even under trim it a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue right here just so I know this piece stays. And then same with this one. I want it to overlap because I want to be able to kind of trim this to the shape of the shoulder and then this one to go straight down. And I totally didn't realize, look at that. I'm going to grab my little sand eraser here. Oh, that was super easy. So in case you don't have this, this is really good for getting off like little smudges that you might do. I got mine on Amazon. And then I'm just going to press this down just to make sure it stays. So I'm going to take my paper snips and just follow the paper. So there's one. There's that, and then bring this one right along to the edge and just a tiny nip on this. Okay, so then the other thing I did was, and I have loved using these, but of course I must have put them back after I started. Yep, I did. I'm going to use black dimensionals for the back of it, just so it's a little bit kind of hidden. So you can either put these directly on here, or what you could do is you could put them on here and kind of see where you think you're going to need them when they line up. So go like that. Put 1, 2, and I'm going to put one more. I know this looks a little bit off, but I think it should still. Yeah, that still works. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to do is I want to do my ribbon. So we have lots and lots of different ribbon choices with Stampin' Up. Even if it's something you might have that's retired, which there is no harm in using that at all. You probably could even use, this is a really nice one too, the black scalloped edge ribbon, because this has a nice texture to it. So I'm going to use this. Oh, oopsie, shouldn't have put that down on there. I'm going to use this. See if I can get this to stick. And I'm going to tie this around prior to putting this down. So I'm just grabbing a length of it. I did ask my my niece's mom if there was a certain way she tied this, and I'm sure there is a very specific way, but you can kind of make your knot look however you want it to look. But I'm going to try and do mine so it actually has like a good knot in it. So we'll say I'm going to take my time. So I'm going up through, and I do it, and I'm also bringing it over to the side because I'm pretty sure when I've seen her do this, my niece is very specific about how she does stuff. If somebody tells her to do it that way, that's the way she does it. So bring that there, and then I am going to just cool part about this is I think it gives it a little bit of texture to it. But if you're worried about the scallops, you could always take off the end of it a little bit just so it's a little bit more serious. Serious of a belt, a black belt there. So there's that. One other thing I'm going to do, and I did this on mine as well, just to make sure that it stays in place in the back, is I took 2 mini glue dots. So I just picked up one and put it on top of the other one. Well, it worked when I didn't do it on camera. And I just made sure this was right where I wanted it and put this down. That way it kind of held it in place so it doesn't slide all over the place. Okay, so there's that. I'm just going to pull the backing off of these 2 and make sure I line this up and I like it in case I need to add something else to it. But I think that looks pretty. I think I'm going to put one more dimensional down here because I feel like I didn't put that one squarely where I would like it. And then I'm going to actually do one more thing here because, and I think I'm going to put one on hers as well. I'm going to put 2 more glue dots together just to keep this down. And then I'm going to do that for hers also because I didn't do that on this one. So since this is a little bit tinier, I'm actually going to put these together and I'm going to kind of wad them up just a little bit. And then I'm going to put this so it's right underneath of the knot. That way it holds it in place so it's a little bit nicer looking. So there's that. So here's this part. So now in order to be able to make this sentiment, so this is something you can do a couple different ways. So I will show you both ways that you can do it. So we have our base card here. So for one, I'm going to do it one way, and then I will do it the opposite way for the other one. Just kind of depends on what is easier for you. So for the first one, here it is. Here's my black marker. So I'll take my Stampin' Right marker, and what I'm doing is I'm holding it sideways and inking up the words. When you hold the point kind of away from what you're doing, I'm just trying to be careful in this little part here. It tends to ink up really, really well. So I don't want the eye. So just going to see if this is about here. I just kind of want this down this direction. So I'm going to just put this down at the bottom. Okay. So, whoops. So that has inked up. I had a tiny little smudge when I put it there, but I omitted the I because what I want to do is be able to put in we. So I'm just going to take the writing tip right now and I'm going to write we. No, it doesn't exactly match, but it's better than whatever we could do. So now for the second one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of masking. So I just have a little scrap piece here of Post-it. You could also use, if you have it, this is a really great tool to have as well, Post-it tape. So you could pull this off just a little teeny bit of it. This is super sticky all the time. Whereas when you have your bigger Post-its, it's only sticky in a certain spot. So what I did was I'm kind of masking off the entire I and a little bit of the and symbol here, the and. So I'm pressing that down in there and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So this is going to be for the inside. So what I'm doing is I'm going to ink up my stamp. So just like I regularly would. Make sure it's nice and covered. Okay, I'm going to put this away so I don't have a catastrophe. I'm going to lift this off. Make sure I'm very careful with it so I don't get ink on my fingers. And aiming it, whoops, into the trash can. And then I'm going to take my marker and I'm just going to add in the black for the rest of that and symbol there. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp this down. And God bless this girl because she really puts her all into everything she does. So there you go. So then all I'm going to do right now is the same thing I did before. This is a pigment ink that I used for this because I like it. It makes things really, really nice and black. So you definitely have to be a little bit careful so you don't smudge. But I'm going to just very carefully in here and add in a we. It's so tiny. Little tiny space, but hey, when you have to make it work. So, and we couldn't be more proud. So that's about all you have to that part, which makes it, again, pretty simple. You can modify this. Just want to give that a second to dry because I don't want it to smudge. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to decide where I want this sentiment, or I should say the panel that I'm putting on. So pretty much about 1/4 inch down. And I'm just going to put some, all of my Tombow ran out at the same time, I swear. I guess that's good. At least it means I consistently use everything. Right, and then I'm going to pop this right on top. Just like that. Now, you could add lots of other stuff. Another fun thing you could do if you wanted to is before you put your red panel on, you could run it through the subtle embossing folder. That way it has some texture. You could maybe put a symbol of if your taekwondo or karate has a certain flag that they use, you could put that up, or maybe put a little bit of a symbol of like a dragon or some other type of a stamp on here as well. But I think this is a really simple card. It was really easy. Really, honestly, most of the paper we used for these pieces was scraps. I mean, these are just scraps that we have laying around that I used for adding the ribs to them for the I still don't know what it's called. I probably should have looked that up before we started, but really, really easy card. You can customize it to pretty much any color, any belt that you need. We have lots and lots of ribbons. So if you would like to get the supplies to make this card, all you have to do is go to my online store. It's open 24/7. It's rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Thank you all so much for watching this today, and I would love to hear your comments on it, and maybe someone can correctly tell me what this is called. If it's a kit or a gi, or I don't want to say a uniform. I know it has a better meaning than that, but thank you all so very much for watching. If you don't already, I would love for you to hit subscribe. You can follow me here. You can turn on the little bell that will notify you every time I post a new video. And you can also find me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook at Rach the Stamper. You can follow my blog at rachthestamper.com, and I hope you have a great day.